Before we begin today's race, I'd just like to introduce you to a new driver in the HARC Pro Series, William Duncan in the 6 car, who you'll see in this car for the rest of the season. He participated in most of the Truck Series season last year. Getting the pole and leading the field down to the green flag would be the 23 car of Zachary Brown, and on his outside would be the 22 car of Jacob Young. Zachary Brown would immediately get into the lead. Meanwhile, racing for around 10th place, Andreas Allen would slide up the track, getting into Stephen Henhock, and would get turned down to the inside, where he would in fact avoid the wall. This would bring out our first caution. After avoiding the first incident, Richard Trelinsky would get on the apron and slide up the track right in front of Luke Walker, putting Leo Walker in the wall, and sending Dixie Normus and Richard Trelinsky for a roll. Here's another angle of the crash. This time from Richard Trelinsky's helicopter perspective, as he just slides up the track right in front of Leo Walker, and Luke Walker, Pichu London, and Dixie Normus were all collected along with Andreas Allen again, and Zach Hofschneider also slid up the track into the wall. Luke Walker, Zach Hofschneider, Dixie Normus, and Richard Trelinsky would all go out of the race from that accident, as Zachary Brown would lead the field back to the restart. You may have seen billowing smoke coming out of the car on the restart. That was Damir Bejianov, last week's winner. He will not have a chance to win 2 in a row here in Rockingham. 4Y usually doesn't work at any racetrack, let alone Rockingham. Gary Tang, Spencer Fullerton, Brock McMahon, and others learned this the hard way when Gary Tang got spun into the grass before getting hit in the rear by Pichu London. This would bring out the second caution of the race. Meanwhile, back out front, the race back to the caution flag was just beginning as Zachary Brown and Connor Breton were battling side by side when newcomer William Duncan got to the inside of both of them. And William would actually hold off a charge on the inside from Mason Wood and the outside charge from Connor Breton, and he would lead the field to the caution flag. William Duncan would lead the field back to the green flag as James O'Shea would go into the pits with engine problems. After leading the next few laps, William Duncan would be challenged by Connor Breton in that strong 21 car. Connor Breton would end up taking the lead. Meanwhile, back in the pack, Robert Moss would have to come into pit road with some terminal problems. We currently have a ferocious battle raging for second place with Eric Cesar, Ben Dover, and William Duncan all battling for the position. Ben Dover would end up getting by for second, and Eric Cesar would try to follow for third. Meanwhile, we got another crash. Further back in the field, Peter Saviano would make contact with Zach Harvick coming out of the corner before getting into Shrimp Engritz and getting turned down hard into the inside wall. Miraculously, all the other cars in the field would manage to avoid him. Unfortunately, though, Peter Saviano's day would be finished. Meanwhile, after the incident in the back, Ben Dover would get a huge run on Connor Breton coming down the backstretch, and with some drafting help from Eric Cesar, Ben Dover would get by to lead the field back to the caution flag narrowly, just edging out Eric Cesar. Under the caution, we would see pretty much the entire field come into the pits other than 5 cars: Eric Cesar, Connor Breton, Mitch McDonald, Stephen Henhock, and James O'Shea would all stay out. Eric Cesar would lead the field back to the green flag on the restart with James O'Shea and Robert Moss 1 lap down on the inside. They both had to come in to the pits earlier with some mechanical problems, but they're both still on track, albeit a lap down. William Duncan, who was 6th on the restart, would end up blowing the motor in turn 1. What would have been a great day for this 6 team ends in heartbreak as they're going to go home with a blown motor. James O'Shea and Robert Moss, the two lap cars, would get around Eric Cesar, and along with them, they would tag along Mitch McDonald, who would take the lead from Eric Cesar and begin re-lapping them. Here we have a shot of the second pack as seen by the leader of the second pack, who is currently Alex Tanker, as Ilya Bondarenko is moving his way up through the field. This pack got separated when William Duncan blew his motor, and so far we've had pretty ferocious battles going on back here. One of the slowest cars on track, Andreas Allen, would come back into the pits to see if he can repair more damage in order to maintain minimum speed to be legally on track here at Rockingham. After leading for several laps without any charges from behind, Mitch McDonald would finally get one from Eric Cesar in the one car with some help on the bottom lane from Connor Breton, who's actually trying to make it 3 wide for the lead right now. Ooh, that was tight. Contact was almost made between Connor Breton and Eric Cesar, as it looks like Eric Cesar is going to get past, but no, here comes Connor Breton on the inside, and he will get the lead. James O'Shea, trying to get his lap back, would get to the inside of the leader Connor Breton, and that would help bend over, draft right up to James and follow him by Connor Breton, and bend over would take the lead. But immediately Connor Breton would pull a great crossover move and try to get him into turn 3, and Connor Breton would push bend over high and retake the lead. It wouldn't be long, however, before Mitch McDonald would get another shot at passing Connor Breton, but this time he's got company with Ben Dover, Kyle Polonini, and Ilya Bondarenko sliding all over the track, trying to get by each other. This is pretty nutty racing considering we're only really about a third through the race. Ilya Bondarenko, who was in that second pack that got stuck behind the William Duncan, who had a blown motor, made his way back up to the front, and he would take the lead in that 19 car. That would be quite short-lived, however, as Ilya Bondarenko would slide up the track and lose his momentum, and Alex Tanker would get the side draft down on the inside and take the lead. That pass would be very short-lived as well, as Alex Tanker would lose his momentum for driving way too hard into turn 1, and Kyle Polonini would fly by in the 7 car. But then coming through turns 3 and 4, Connor Breton would get to the inside, and Connor Breton would retake the lead, albeit with Kyle Polonini leading that lap. Behind Connor Breton, fighting for second, you can see we have a very ferocious battle. Now we have 4 wide racing going on. Oh, we got a spin. Zach Harvick's around. Zach Harvick slid up the track as exiting turn 2, and there was just no room for him, and he got dumped by the lap car of James O'Shea. He would make slight contact with the wall, but no one else would become involved in the accident. After the incident, Penn Isman would get down on the apron, slide back up the track, and take Jacob Young and Robert Moss into the wall. Luckily, everyone else would be able to get out of the way in time, and no one else would be involved in this accident. Under the caution, every driver in the field would come in for a pit stop. Robert Moss would go out of the race from the accident, so that's why we only have 2 lap down cars now, but Ben Dover would lead the field back to the green flag, as his pit crew did an excellent job getting that car done and out of the pits in under 12 seconds. Andreas Allen, trying to get his lap back from Ben Dover, would help Ilya Bondarenko get past Ben Dover, and Ilya Bondarenko would take the lead, and he would try to put Andreas 1 lap down again. Ilya Bondarenko would get held up by Andreas Allen, and with a little bit of a bump from James Bond would get the lead. The next lap, James Bond would run high in turn 2, and Ilya Bondarenko would get back to the inside and retake the lead. A lap later, Ilya Bondarenko would slide way up the track, and Mark Nutt would take the lead as Alex Tanker and Connor Breton made some pretty significant contact while battling for second place. As now Alex Tanker's gotten around Mark Nutt, but oh, he slides up the track, and now they're back in a battle for first place. As this is just practically super speedway racing right now, and we're at Rockingham. Now Alex Tanker and Mark Nutt run high, and we've got another crash. Kyle Pulinini in the 7 car would try to make it 4 wide for third place there, and he would end up turning Ben Dover into the wall and would express his frustration with Ben Dover coming down the track a bit there by, well, putting him in the wall again. Then he would almost get hit by Shrimp Engritz as he would come up the track, so a good day just went right to bad for Kyle Pulinini. Apparently Nathan Gibson didn't like the way James Davis was racing him under the last green flag run, because Nathan Gibson would continue bumping James Davis until he was able to spin him off of turn 2 under caution. I think we have just gotten word that Nathan Gibson will be called to the hauler after the race to speak with the HARC officials about that incident. Just as we were getting ready for the restart, leader Mark Nutt would have to come into the pits with a mechanical problem. He was having a great day, and now he'll be shuffled to the back of the pack if he doesn't go out of the race. Unbelievable. This gave the lead to Alex Tanker in the 2 car on the restart. It was still two cars 1 lap down, Andreas Allen and James O'Shea. And Alex Tanker would be able to pass them both easily coming into turn 1. Coming out of turn 2 a few laps later, Ilya Bondarenko would get a huge run on Alex Tanker, and then Mark Nutt would come flying back on track. Obviously he's gotten whatever problem he had with that 0 car fixed, and Ilya Bondarenko would end up putting him another lap down. I think that means he is either 2 or 3 laps down now, so that mechanical problem really did mess up Mark Nutt's day. As now James Bond is getting to the inside of Ilya Bondarenko, and James Bond will in fact take the lead. That lead change was very temporary though, as Alex Tanker would get a run off of turn 4, and with some help from Spencer Fullerton, he would get by James Bond, and now Spencer Fullerton's going for the lead himself. Spencer Fullerton, of course, is our current points leader, and he's looking to have another good day in that obviously very quick number 73 car. Coming down into turn 1, as Spencer Fullerton was trying to make the pass on Alex Tanker, Connor Breton would get to the inside of both of them and take the lead, as we are just 3 by 3 by 3 here. This is not safe. Meanwhile, back in the field, Mark Nutt wasn't being a very good back marker, and apparently Eric Cesare just had enough of him as he turned him right down into the inside wall down the front stretch. Luckily everyone else would be able to avoid him, but that would bring out our next caution. Connor Breton would lead the field to the caution flag, as we've got big trouble down the backstretch under caution. Zachary Brown, James O'Shea, Gary Tang, and others are involved in what seemed to be just everyone just trying to get in line at the same time, and there just wasn't enough space. Luckily, it doesn't look like many drivers were very damaged in that wreck, although many have some visual damage. Connor Breton would lead the field back to the green flag, with Spencer Fullerton in second, and we have 3 cars at least 1 lap down, those of course being James O'Shea, Andreas Allen, and Mark Nutt. Connor Breton would lead for many laps as the ferocious battle for second on back continues, as Mason Wood and Ilya Bondarenko are currently fighting for with the lap car of Andreas Allen up top. Once Ilya Bondarenko got within drafting distance of Connor Breton, him and Mitch McDonald teamed up, and they would get by Connor Breton. As now Mitch McDonald is trying to get the lead from Ilya Bondarenko, and now here comes Spencer Fullerton, who's may not try to make it 4 wide because, well, he's the points leader, so that wouldn't be a very good idea. But he'll stay right there. As now Mitch McDonald will in fact make the pass and take the lead. Just after 2/3 of the race was completed, with Mitch McDonald still in the lead, we have an absolutely ridiculous battle with pretty much the top 15 to 20 all being in one big pack racing 3 wide. Oh, look at Brock McMahon slide up the track there, and I think Bendover will get in the wall and we've got a crash. This is what happens when super speedway like racing happens on a short track, as Nicholas DeFort would end up getting out of control. Mark Nutt, Mason Wood, James Davis, James O'Shea, and now James O'Shea is upside down. And so is Jacob Young. We've got a couple of cars on the roofs here, and now the entire field is pretty much blocked from entering the track. Luckily, they have used their brakes and come to a stop, as, man, a lot of really competitive cars are now out of the race. After the melee that ensued on the backstretch, Ron Young would get past James Bond and Mitch McDonald to take the lead, and he would lead it back to the caution flag. Leading the field back to the green flag would be Ron Young in the 64 car. 5 cars went out of the race from that previous melee: Ilya Bondarenko, Andreas Allen, Nathan Gibson, Jacob Young, and James O'Shea. James Bond, after a few laps of running second, would get by Ron Young and take the lead, as we are finally starting to see the field start to spread out, as practically every car on track has some sort of damage or mechanical issue. Ron Young would retake the lead after James Bond ran a few corners wide, but then Mitch McDonald would get to the inside, almost made contact with Ron Young there, and Mitch McDonald would take the lead in that 24 car. Mitch McDonald would lead for around 7 laps or so before Spencer Fullerton was finally able to hold off the charges from behind and take the lead for himself with just 17 laps to go, and the pack reforming behind them. It would take just 2 corners though before Mitch McDonald was able to get a big enough run up to retake the lead from Spencer Fullerton. Watch out for Mitch McDonald. He has a great car today. Will he get his second victory of the season? Just a lap later, guess what? Another lead change. Spencer Fullerton comes flying by Mitch McDonald. Spencer Fullerton would continue to lead for the next few laps until they encountered the lap traffic of Mason Wood, Leah Walker, and Ben Dover, which would help hold up several of the drivers, as Zachary Brown has gotten to the inside, and I think he currently has the lead, and he will get by the lap cars who take the lead. Zachary Brown would lose a lot of speed maneuvering around the last lap car, and James Bond in the 007 car would dive to the bottom and get around him in turn 1 and 2, and now Ron Young's trying to get the lead down the backstretch. It would take another lap and a half or so, but Ron Young would eventually get the lead, as now they're coming up in the lap traffic of Mark Nutt, which they just barely split. James Bond going to the outside and Ron Young sticking to the outside. Oh, and now Spencer Fullerton in the 73 car is blown up. Our points leader would have vastly extended his points lead today, but instead he will finish outside of the top 20. James Bond got to the inside of Ron Young and took the lead, as we currently have a 3-car breakaway at the front of the field with James Bond, Zachary Brown, and Ron Young. The only 3 cars in the front pack right now. James Bond would continue to lead, and with just 3 laps to go, Ron Young would get to the inside. Oh no, he's gotten turned by Mitch McDonald. He's gone hard in the inside wall. This is going to remove any chance of him winning this race, and it will bring out a caution flag with just 3 laps to go. Now, under last year's rules, James Bond would be the winner under caution here, but because we had 8 races end under caution and numerous complaints from HARC fans that wanted a green flag finish, we have decided to implement a green-white checkered rule. So James Bond will pass the regulated distance now. All of the cars will pull in the lead lap car. So 16, the top 16, will have 15 minutes to repair damage. The lap cars will have to stay in, and then the lead lap cars will go back on track and settle it in a 2-lap race, and we will repeat that as many times as necessary. If the caution comes out on the first lap, then we will line them up again and repeat. And if they make it to the second lap, if the caution comes out, it doesn't matter because we're racing back to the flag. So James Bond will lead the field back to the green flag in the series' first ever green-white checker. Mitch McDonald in the 24 car is on his outside in second, Zachary Brown's third, and Alex Tanker is fourth. As look at Connor Breton making his way up into third place from fifth already. Nicholas Dufour in the back has just spun around. That will not bring out the caution. There's no one back there to hit him. Connor Breton up into second place. Can James Bond hold on for one more lap? Connor Breton with lots of draft from the back bumper of James Bond. Here comes Connor Breton up to the back bumper. Will he be able to get something done here? Meanwhile, back behind him, 3 wide racing. Connor Breton has just gotten to the inside of James Bond. Here they come into the final corner. Can Connor Breton get her done? Connor Breton washes high. James Bond's coming back on the outside. It's going to be a photo finish. James Bond wins his first ever HARC Series race in spectacular fashion, winning by just 0.03 of a second in the second closest HARC Series finish in history. And now he blows up. What an insane finish. As now James Bond, he didn't have enough of a motor left to make it half a lap more. That's how hard he pushed his car. That's how hard these HARC drivers race on a regular basis. As we actually had a small crash there entering turn 3. As James Bond will come into the pit road and receive his trophy in victory lane. Connor Breton would come across the line in a disappointing second place finish. Brock McMahon would come across third. James Davis would come across fourth in the 72 car, and Gary Tang in the 54 car would come across fifth. As here is the margin of victory once again. What an exciting race, probably one of the most intense races the HARC Series has ever run, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.